Yo, this movie is nuts! I almost fell down there. Okay. I had a plan on how I was going to release this video, but stuff happened, and so it's getting released a little bit later. So, many stuff happened. I'm going to do a video about a cursed CD, and I'm going to factor into the story. So we'll just wait till that video comes out later. Right now, we're going to talk about the last Sharknado. It's about time. It's about time I start talking about this movie because I was supposed to do it yesterday. So, where to begin? Well, at the beginning, of course. So, where did we do? We start off, the end of the last film had Dolph Lundgren, Gil Dolph Lundgren, Drago, coming to get Finn, and they hopped in the time machine Jeep, and they went through time. And this movie starts with Finn arriving in the prehistoric times without Gil, because a poorly CGI hologram of Dolph Lundgren says that you can't go back, you can only go forward. So, yeah. Even though they do sort of go back, but not really, because they're going forward in time, who knows. So, in the prehistoric time, Finn gets reunited with some lost allies. Nova, Brian from Sharknado 2, played by the world champ Judah Freelander, and the real April. Mind you, he still has the robot April head wrapped up in this little knapsack thing that he's carrying around. And now they were taken from their exact points in time they're supposed to die. Brian was taken on the subway before he died. Nova was taken when she was jumping out of the helicopter thing in Sharknado 4. 5, right? She wasn't in 4. Continuity error there with 4, but and April was taken just before that thing landed on her at the end of Sharknado 3. So she has no recollection of ever being a robot. She's pure human. So I'm like, yes, we're finally getting away from the robot thing, and then we get away from it. So, from prehistoric time, they reunite. Brian's got this big old club. April's got a pterodactyl that she named Tara. Tara! Do you get it? Because that's her real name! Moving on. From there, we go to the Revolutionary War times. Yes, sir. And there we find that medieval times first. We go to medieval times first. And from there, we find that Brian has turned into a black woman. Maybe they couldn't get Judah Freelander for that thing, or they decided to make it a joke. And they face off against Morgana, who is a transvestite. I guess. It's cool. It's kind of funny. And they fight in this battle. And eventually they finish it off and they travel to the Revolutionary War, where we meet George Washington, played by Daryl Hammond. Benedict Arnold, played by Ben Stein. And Benjamin Franklin, played by Leslie, you know, the little short guy that talks like this. Him. And it's funny, they convince George Washington that they're helping from the future by showing him a picture of $1 bill, which later changes into Brian, because Brian decides to stay behind. And then they go to the Old West, where they not only run into Sheriff D. Snyder, that's right, but also Billy the Kid, played by Jonathan Bennett, and Sky, who was saved before her electrocution by Gil, much like the rest of them. She's Brian's replacement for almost the remainder of the film. And so, from here, Finn is arrested for being an outlaw by Sheriff D. Snyder, and his cellmate is played by Chris Owen. So it's kind of a American Pie reunion. We'll get another reunion here in a little bit, but this is like an American Pie reunion. But he gets taken away, and he says the line, Semper Paratus, which means it's Gil. Now, there are two ways to conceive this, because Finn is yelling out, Gil, it's Dad! It's Dad! But here's the thing. He should know what his dad looks like, which means he's purposely not interacting with them because he wants them to go on their own quest. He's got to go on his own. So he's purposely not interacting with them. He knows what his dad looks like. That one got me this time. Also, I'm like, yeah, why doesn't he talk about? I'm like, oh, he's got to keep their quest going and his quest going the way it's supposed to. Yes, he could have talked to them, but it's got to be separated. And they do end up saving him, and he jumps to the next time frame, as they do, and they end up in the 60s, where we're going to run some continuity errors. Not really continuity, but... So, we run into Finn's parents, played by Tori Spelling and her real-life husband, Dean McDermott. And, well, while Tori Spelling is in her 40s, I could see that she could be played by Cheryl Tiegs in 2018. But a 53-year-old Dean McDermott playing a father that in 30-some-odd years' time is supposed to turn into a 65, 70-ish year old, the 65-something-year-old, between 60 and 70-year-old David Hasselhoff. Not so much. And you could tell they tried to make Dean McDermott look younger as they colored his beard and his hair dark. Make him look younger, so they were trying to make him look younger. But it didn't fly so well for me. And we get a Beverly Hills 90210 reunion with, Ian Ziering and Tori Spelling both on that show. And we get a joke where Tori Spelling says to Finn, look familiar. Did we go to high school together? Ha ha! Because you kind of did on a TV show. Yeah, and then you see Gil, who's now in his 40s. It looks nothing like Dolph Lundgren. And he's kind of a heavy-ish, like a little bit slimmer than me type guy. How's he going to go from that to big-ass Dolph Lundgren within 10, 20 years? I mean, come on. You could change a lot in 20 years, sure, but come on. And he surfs away, and then they help, and then they get away. And so they decide they're finally going to go back to where it all started, which is where the first Sharknado has happened. But they end up instead, because of Nova, to the time where her grandfather was going to die. And this is where we have some continuity issues, because they determine that the whole reason why her grandfather died is because they showed up with the Sharknado. Bullshit. Because the first recorded Sharknado to the public happened in 2013. Yes, they said it was the first Sharknado in prehistoric times. Other than that, there has been no other Sharknado ever mentioned before 2013. They thought it was a joke in the first film. And now you're saying, oh, one just happened to happen, and one just happened to be responsible for killing her grandfather. No. And in this instance, her grandfather does not die. He's played by Peter Knight from the Brady Bunch, by the way, because they intervene. Nova and April die, and during this, the robot April head falls in the water. And so it's left with Sky and Finn, and they go to the future. But too far into the future, because a futuristic society of all robotic versions of April, who have the real April contained in a fucking Sleeping Beauty Snow White glass thing, have taken over. All because Finn left the head in the water and didn't come after her and was more concerned about the real April. And this is where I have my problems. You didn't need this. You really didn't need this. And all it serves is to get Sky killed so that Finn can go back to the first Sharknado. And we get that first scene from the first Sharknado with the Spanish guy and the Asian guy talking, and it cuts to Finn landing on the boat. And then we cut to the actor who is now like years older and has gray in his beard, but we're supposed to believe it's the same time. And they actually work together and to fight off this Sharknado when he dies. And then he tries to stop it. He finds the April head because this ship, the very ship from the beginning of the first film is the one that finds the head. And then the future robot comes back in time and tries to stop Finn from succeeding, which only spreads out the plot more and annoys the fuck out of me. Because we didn't need this in the film at all. You don't need a human antagonist in a a humanoid antagonist in a Sharknado movie. But we move on, because she gets defeated. There's this big old time fight with historical figures like Muhammad Ali, Joe Louis, Genghis Khan, people like that. Just, fight. Yes, Sharknado. And then time resets itself, and everything is back to normal. Nova likes sharks. The whole family is gathered at Finn's bar, including George, who is shown through archive footage of John Hurd, may he rest in peace. And I thought that was kind of cool that they did that. But there is a continuity issue in this. If the Sharknado, they say that, we went through some tough times, but now my family and I were all good together. The Sharknado didn't happen. The whole family would be together. The first Sharknado happened, and that's what got him and April back together and put his family back together. His kids didn't want nothing to do with him. His ex-wife didn't want nothing to do with him. And the Sharknado brought them together. The second Sharknado film brought him and his brother-in-law back together because they were at odds because he married. They were best friends growing up, and Martin married Finn's sister. And that was at the odds, and it was the second Sharknado that brought them back together. So if none of the Sharknado movies ever happen, they don't get brought back together. It's a big continuity issue for me. Big continuity issue. And yet they just say, it's a hunky-dory. There's no Sharknadoes. Our workers on the TV. There's not a storm inside. Everything is sunny all over the world, all over the United States, which is impossible to happen. Somewhere in the United States, it's going to be raining no matter how sunny. It can be sunny all over the United States. I'm just saying. Anyway, this film is pretty good. I'm going to give it an 8 because it's a little wacky and it's a little bit better than the predecessors. Not as good as the first one. That's why I keep that one high on the pedestal. But it tries to bring it back. There is continuity issues. You even have Marcella Lucia coming back. But yeah, other than that, pretty good. I liked what they did with John Hurd. They even credit him in the credits as taking part, even though he was passed away, and I thought it was pretty cool. So, yeah, even Martin's there, everyone's there. So, what are your thoughts on The Last Sharknado? Let me know in the comments below. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Thank you for watching. I've been Scotty. I'll see you in the next one.